Welcome back to Stay in Your Lane, Triple T Transport. Today we've got Zach Elrod back. Something that's definitely piqued my interest as subject matter, and something all of you may not be aware of or may want to familiarize yourself with. So I've asked Zach Elrod from Allianz Trade to come and sit down with us and talk. Zach, how are things going?
Things are good, John.
Good.
A new day, a new adventure. So,
Good. So I saw something you posted, and we talked about it on the last episode. The differences in what's going on in bankruptcies today versus bankruptcies in the past. What's this I'm hearing about selling off the rights to pursue the lawsuit angle?
yeah.
What does that mean? Can you kind of make that simple for all of us?
So in the event there's a bankruptcy, companies, the unsecured creditors will essentially form a committee, and what we're starting to see is recognition of litigation, assets as another source of value for companies and their unsecured creditors. So this trend's kind of taken on more and more, where that is now becoming more of a value and more of a negotiation piece. So companies, what we're kind of seeing now is that as this is now more of a negotiation point and another opportunity to shop value of the company, it's making the process a little bit more messy, a little bit more nuanced, if you will, and it's making the payouts take even longer than they typically do. Then also, if you're a smaller company that's just kind of waiting in line, that can impact your payout, that can impact your say, because what's good for the committee is not necessarily good for you as the individual company.
Help me understand selling the rights to pursue the lawsuit. So, positionally, what does that mean for all the parties? Because we all know that the more people involved, the muddier the water gets, right?
So I'm seeing it more, honestly, become more of like a finance tool and almost a revenue center for a lot of firms versus just a committee that negotiates what's best, what's quickest, what's cleanest.
So, is it the motive has changed? If you had to pick one thing that's causing the bankruptcy spike, what would you say it is?
I'm saying it's a few things. The credit crunch is real. So the cost of capital's gone up, the availability has gone down or become more stringent. So it's costing folks more to secure their debt. And then I'm also seeing, the effects of inflation, and then we're seeing a change in market conditions. If you look at any retailer right now, by and large, a lot of them are posting or changing their outlook for the next upcoming quarters. A lot of them have different, whether it's Dick's Sporting Goods, Target, Foot Locker. A lot of them are talking about, theft. A lot of them are. I saw one retailer was blaming the consumer, just saying that they're not spending anymore. So we're starting to see some of those conditions change. To your point, I just kind of say one of our old cliches is everybody pays until they don't. A lot of times it's not their fault. Something external happens, death, divorce, interest rate hikes, natural disaster. But, at the end of the day, for transportation companies, the accounts receivable is the largest asset. If not, it's definitely top three, especially if you talk to asset based. It's the most vulnerable. So I tell my folks, I'll come in, I'll collateralize it, basically take it from a promise to get paid to an investment backed asset, and we just give you a pillow to sleep on at night. And I think with that, when you ride high for so many years, get by on cheap money, now the cost of production goes up, the cost of capital increases, and now people are spending less. Yeah, so that's kind of what we're seeing within a lot of the industry, and that's leading to a lot of these upticks and bankruptcies.
So, we all know that, you know, revenue's down, excess cash for spending is down, right? Uh, when Dan talked to us about inflation numbers, core inflation strips out all energy and food, right? So those are sky high and have been the most volatile that we've dealt with over the past couple of years. the grocery store, the restaurant, or
Yep.
energy, whether it's home heating, fuel for your car, fuel's going back up, all of these things. So with that on top of compression, we're all buying down in
Yep.
today's market. We're making choices. We're getting necessities at the grocery. We're probably passing on some of the higher end items
Yep.
and focusing on the value that we can get at the grocery. I think that's, I'd say, normal for a recessionary type market. But is it a recession? Well, it may not, but it sure feels like it.
Yeah, and I mean, I read an interesting article where they're talking about how grocery stores were increasing their food services, that they were fighting over the same market share of restaurants. So people have so much money to spend. They're not going to be able to go out, or they feel like they are not in a position to go out, spend a few $100s on dinner. So that discretionary spend, grocery stores are now increasing, at-home food packages, taco kits, things of that nature, because now consumers are very conscious with how they're spending their money, and there's not as much money out there, discretionary spend available. I see it all the time where, you know, things are running hot. My customers, we're doing the renewal. Our program is based on estimated insured sales over 12 months. I had customers that were going up 20, 30% year over year. And now they're coming down. They're saying, hey, we're not feeling that optimistic. Let's do it light this year with the idea that we can true up at the end of next year. So that's kind of what I'm seeing. And again, I like to speak anecdotally just because I've talked to so many clients in different industries. But bringing it back to transportation logistics, a lot of my companies that have been red hot the past 3-4 years, they're coming back and they're saying, hey, Zach, 2023, 24, we're going to have a down year. Our top line's down. Or I've even got clients coming back in the midterm of the policy and saying, hey, we were basing it on X amount of millions. Can we do a cancel rewrite with the idea that we're not going to hit that number? And maybe it's a little bit more aggressive than we thought.
Well, I think most of the shippers I've talked to and manufacturers are telling me their overall volumes are down. To your point, the grocery versus the retail restaurant space, right? That's always the back and forth. If grocery's down, restaurant is up. If restaurant's down, grocery's up. And I think the grocery stores won big during the COVID years, right?
Yep.
And now I think they're still winning, but we're seeing another push for them to try and keep the shoppers from getting back to the retail restaurant.
Correct. Yeah, and
It's working.
it's a delicate dance. And with my clients in the shipping space, if you're selling into retail, you look at any major retailer and even a lot of these grocery stores, they're trying to find the perfect balance of inventory. And they don't want to have a gluttony of, have overstock products. And that can lead to some issues down the line as well. Big stores like Nike, they're running sales because they're sitting on too much inventory. I've got some clients that deliver food. They deliver for the manufacturer. The grocery store takes the product. They decide that they don't need it, or they over-ordered. They request that it gets sent back. Now that company runs into a cash flow issue because they thought they had the money, they thought they had the order. Now the volume's just not there or at the pace they were predicting. So that's creating a lot of uncertainty. And I think just coming out of COVID, it's a delicate dance on how we find that balance and what does the new normal look like.
Well, that's the big question. Moving forward into 2024, election year, right? Those don't normally boom. So I'd say it's going to be pretty flat across the board with some spikes. But across the board, I don't see 24 maybe being a huge volume. But I think we're going to see some relief off of compression on pricing in the transportation sector. I think we've already hit the bottom, and from here it's going to be an uptick and pricing,
Sure.
which is going to cause more turbulence because we've got compression on sales and volumes and profits. When transportation goes and fights against that, then it's usually a battle, a slow,
Sure.
long grind, I think, from now through 2024. But we're going to navigate it. The question is that going to be the new norm?
Sure. And it's gonna create competition. With competition, there's opportunity. And it's just finding the right customers, making sure that you capitalize on each of those while also remaining safe and looking out, for the bottom line, especially as the margins compress. Um, that becomes all the more, the due diligence on a customer becomes all the more important.
Oh, I would agree. I think in your guys' shoes, when you're the one that's assuming the debt, right? You're assuming the debt basically, paying in 30 days from receipt of the claim, and then you're assuming the debt at that point.
Correct.
So, you're going to have to be pretty careful.
Yeah, the way I kind of position it is Allianz Trade, we're investment grade, so we're double A by S&P, A plus by AM Best. So whenever you go to bring on a customer and extend terms, we're guaranteeing that at 90%. So rather than you trying to assess, the external factors of your client, their financial position, you can just treat every customer that you sell to like it's an investment grade client because we're guaranteeing it at 90%.
Well, yeah, I think you can pretty much navigate that successfully on our side with a 90% picture. But that has to scare you if you're sitting on 90%.
Yeah, and it does. And that's why we've got some skin in the game. We're guaranteeing 90%. So our job is to underwrite that risk, monitor the trends, build out a team that underwrites each industry. That way, we take the guessing work out of managing the credit. You lean on our expertise in metals, in retail, in food. And we kind of got that inside knowledge. And then we have our clients giving us lifetime payment trends. So if you're selling to a client, for example, you're getting paid on time, someone else reports them to us, we can now take a proactive approach to monitoring their payment habits and hopefully avoid you from taking a loss altogether versus just being that reactive piece of insurance that guarantees when they don't pay.
Wow, that's a great resource. Definitely a great resource. Well, Zach, thank you for being on again. I hope everyone that's listening, if you want to know something from Zach, or if you want to reach out to Zach, we will have Zach's contact info up here. Allianz Trade is who Zach's with. I've known Zach for how long now? With 3 years?
Oh, a little longer than that. We met before the pandemic, so
Okay.
that tells you something. That
Yeah,
2 years is like is dust in the wind. So yeah, 5-6 years probably now at this point.
Probably. We've always gotten along great. I'd say our relationship's based on honest communication and trust, which is great. That's why I asked John. But if you're out there in transportation and you're concerned and you can't sleep at night, or you're worried about are your receivables going to be paid, I suggest you give Zach a call and see what he can do for you. Thanks for being on. I always
Yeah, no time,
appreciate
no
it.
problem.